During a long-term SHTF grid down event, you will end up with something like this growing inside of you, slowly sucking the life out of you. Watch to learn how to kill the infestation that will be feeding itself from your body. Today you are going to learn why in a long-term grid down situation, why you are almost certainly going to get infected with intestinal parasites. And in today's video you are going to learn how you can cure yourselves of those intestinal parasites using a common tree that grows around us. And you're also going to see me drink on video this natural medicine that we're going to make today that would cure us of those intestinal parasites. Giardia, Cryptosporidium, roundworm, whipworm, pinworm. These are some of the intestinal parasites that's going to hit people like you and I hard in a long-term grid down event. So one way we will get infected with intestinal parasites in a grid down event will be drinking contaminated creek or lake water. Another ways that you catch them is just by eating contaminated food or even walking on contaminated soil. Now, good proper hygiene is your first line of defense in combating intestinal parasites, but in a long-term grid down situation where access to soap and clean water might be a little bit scarce or hard to come by, there's still going to just be a lot of people that's going to get infected with these intestinal parasites. So we're going to use my poor man's Berkey here to filter out this lake water or this creek water that I just collected. Now, really fast before we start making this natural medicine on camera, let's talk really fast about what symptoms you might experience if you get infected with intestinal parasites in a grid down situation. So you want to be on the lookout for nausea and vomiting and stomach cramps, diarrhea, fatigue, anal itching, and sometimes even visible worms in your feces. So let's now learn how we can make this simple natural medicine that will kill off intestinal parasites inside of your body so that you don't suffer from them in a long-term grid down situation. Let's go. So step number one is we are going to find ourselves a good old American black walnut, and we are going to harvest the walnuts from this. So black walnut contains juggalones and also tannins, and it's those properties that actually kill off those intestinal parasites inside of you. Now, we're actually after the green husk or the hull that's around the walnut itself. And here in my area, these walnuts usually ripen around August or September, because when we pick them, we want to pick them right before they fall from the tree. We want these to be mostly green. They can have a few black spots on them, but we still want them mostly green. And I'm sorry if this is such a crappy shot, but the sun is so bright, I can't hardly see the viewfinder on my camera. Now, the next step that we're going to do is remove the husks from the walnuts, again, because it's the husks that contain the medicinal qualities that we want to kill off those intestinal parasites inside of our bodies. And as we remove the husks, we will actually save the walnuts themselves so that we can eat those at a later time. And also too, you can see that I'm wearing gloves in this video because these husks will definitely stain your hands. Now, the next step, some of these husks I'm going to put into my herb drying rack for just about 3 or 4 weeks, because with these husks we can actually make a parasite killing medicinal tea out of them. But the rest of them here, I'm actually going to make a medicinal tincture out of. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these hulls up, or these husks, whatever you want to call them, up into smaller pieces. And now I'm going to put them into a mason jar, and I'm going to fill this mason jar up just about 3/4 of the way full. And now, since I have the holes in the jar, now I'm going to fill the jar to the very rim, to the very top, with 90 to 100 proof vodka. It's very important that whenever you're using fresh material like this, that you use a high proof vodka, and I like to use this 100 proof vodka. But you want to make sure that the vodka goes to the very top of the mason jar, because as you're making this medicine, you want to make sure that the holes, the black walnut holes, are completely covered by the vodka so that they don't mold. And now I'm going to store it in a cool, dark place for the next 8 weeks so that the vodka can extract all of the good medicinal qualities from the black walnut hulls. And during this 8 weeks, every couple of days, I'm going to take the jar out, shake it, and put it back. And now, since it's been about 8 weeks and the vodka has had time to extract the good stuff from the black walnut hulls. Let's go ahead and remove it and get on with making this natural medicine. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to strain the hulls from the what's now my tincture. And now I'm going to transfer my tincture to a dark glass dropper bottle. And now since we got the tincture made and bottled and ready to go, let's go ahead and talk about dosage. And just as a quick reminder, this is not medical advice I'm giving in this video. I'm only sharing what I would do in a grid down situation if I had intestinal parasites and I didn't have access to professional medical help. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to mix 2 teaspoons of this into 1 cup of water. And I would drink this, a cup of this at a time, 2 teaspoons per cup of water, and drink 1 cup of water at a time for 5 hours straight on the hour. So every hour, a cup of this for 5 hours straight. So 5 times a day, an hour in between. And I would do this 2 days straight. And I am getting ready to drink this on camera so you can see it's safe and it doesn't kill me, but I do want to remind everybody I am selling this natural medicine book that it would be a lifesaver in a grid down event. It's got hundreds of pages of recipes just like this. So if you want to learn how you can help control your high cholesterol, your high blood pressure, high blood sugar, headaches, how to keep a simple cut from getting infected, this book will be a lifesaver in a grid down event. And at the time of filming this video, it's only 25 bucks, and I'll put a link to it down below. You can check it out if you want to. But now I'm going to put this down the hatch so you can see it doesn't kill me. It actually barely had any taste at all. I could taste it a little bit, but it really wasn't that bad. This is the first time of me taking a higher dosage like this. I've taken smaller dosages of it before, and I was really expecting it to be pretty bitter, but it really wasn't that bad at all. Now, starting on the 3rd day, after I've had 2 days of drinking a cup of this at a time for 5 hours, every hour on the hour for 5 hours, again for the first 2 days, on the 3rd day, I would drink 1 cup of this a day for the next 12 days, and that should take care of your intestinal parasites that's inside of you. That regimen I just told you about should keep their eggs from attaching to your intestinal walls. It should break that life cycle and kill off those intestinal parasites that's inside of you. Now, however, if those intestinal parasites do return, then I would repeat this process again. And then I would just do that for the first 2 weeks, then I would take 2 weeks off, and then if I started showing symptoms of them again, then I would repeat that regimen for 2 weeks and then take 2 weeks off until you stopped seeing any signs of intestinal parasites inside of you. If you remember earlier in the video, we put some of those walnut husks to dry in my herb drying rack. Let's go ahead and get some of those dried husks, and we're gonna make a tea out of that, so that way you have an additional way that you can fight intestinal parasites in a grid down event. Now, since these particular walnut hulls have had a good 3 or 4 weeks, I think, to dry out, this is what we're going to use to make that medicinal tea out of, again, to fight intestinal parasites in a grid down event. So now in this next step, what we're going to do is some of this creek water that we got earlier, that it's now filtered through the poor man's Berkey. We're going to get just about a cup worth of water in here, and then we're going to get this water to a boil so it can be getting heated up while we do our next step. Now, my next step, I'm going to use some of these dried walnut husks or hulls, whatever you want to call them. I'm going to put these in my trusty dusty mortar and pestle, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of crush them down into smaller pieces so that we can make this medicinal tea that's going to help kill off that parasite infection you can get in a grid down event. So now our next step is we are going to put just about a ½ teaspoon of the crushed black walnut hulls into this jar here, this cup, and I'm going to pour a cup of this boiling water, or this hot water now, over those hulls. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this, and I'm going to let this steep for the next 10 or 15 minutes. Okay, our next step is now, since this has had 15 minutes to steep, and you can see how that turned from crystal clear water to this really dark colored medicinal tea. Now I'm going to strain it using this handy dandy mesh strainer here so that I remove the black walnut husk or hull pieces, whatever you want to call it, from the medicinal tea. So I'll just go ahead and pour it through here. And now my tea is actually ready. And I will totally admit, I do not do very good with hot drinks. This is still pretty hot. So I'm gonna give this just a couple more minutes to cool down so I can drink it on camera so you can see it doesn't kill me. Okay, it's been a few more minutes and it's cooled down a little bit where it's just warm now instead of so hot. And in actuality, in full transparency, this is actually gonna be my second time drinking this for this video. Like the dork that I am, the first time I filmed this, I forgot to hit the record button. So I sit there and went through all the motions and drank it and everything, and it didn't even get recorded. Anyways, I'm gonna drink this now on camera for a second time so you can see that this is safe and it's not going to kill you. Down the hatch. So I already know what this tastes like because I just tasted it a few minutes ago. It's got kind of a little bit of a woodsy flavor to it. It's not bad at all. If I had to drink this in a grid down situation to kill intestinal parasites inside of me, it would not bother me. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't taste bad. Now let's talk dosage. If I were having to drink this to kill intestinal parasites, I would drink this 1 cup at a time, 3 times a day for 2 weeks, as long as my body tolerated it. And then I would take a break for 2 weeks, and then if I started showing signs that the intestinal parasites weren't completely gone at that point, then after 2 weeks of a break, then I would do that regimen again of 1 cup at a time, 3 times a day for 2 weeks again, and I would do that on and off until the intestinal parasites or signs of them completely disappeared from my body. Now just a quick couple of notes of caution. If you're allergic to nuts of any kind or allergic to walnuts, you should not consume this. Also, pregnant and breastfeeding women should not consume this internally, as the juggalones can be harmful to the baby. And then if I were forced to give this to my young child in a grid down event, I would give him half the amount that I would consume. So now I want to hear from you. What other common ailments would you like to see me cover in these videos? Comment down below with your suggestion. And to see the playlist where I am making a whole bunch of different natural medicines, then click on the video that should be appearing on the screen just about now to learn what most preppers don't know. Anyways, folks, this is enough internet for me today. I do need to get back to work. And folks, if you made it this far, hey, thank you very much for watching, and I pray that you have a good night.